Alrighty, welcome back to the G-Man Show. We're back on the internet together again today. We're talking Australia's broke. We're going to jump into a few topics. This one's Australians dating for financial security.
More people are putting finances towards the top of their dating list. 17% of Australians surveyed are looking for love for financial security. New research from Finder also finding that around 34% had lied about their financial situation to attract a partner.
Gotta love it. Young blokes saying, yeah, I'll make $300K a year, darling. Trying to lock them in. But in all honesty, this is not news. This has been happening since the start of civilization. Everyone wants the best deal they can get, especially now in 2025. Everything's expensive. No end in sight.
Z is most likely to have dated for money, followed by millennials, Generation X's, and lastly, baby boomers. And joining us this afternoon is Sarah Megerson from Finder, the personal finance expert. Sarah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Were you surprised by this research that finances are really a priority for people when they're dating?
Yeah.
How is this surprising? You wouldn't say, for the most part, there'll be men saying things like this. No, I do think it's very important that both people in a relationship are contributing financially. It's too hard now otherwise. But I think for the most part, it's going to be women who are going to be looking at this with a lot more scrutiny. Just the way it goes.
I mean, money is always a factor in dating. It always has been. But this is a bit of a new financial red flag and a trend that we've seen really tick off in the last few years. We've had this cost of living crisis, and we do actually see a really big difference in the amount of savings that women and men have. There's about a $20,000 gap on average. So there's kind of a bit more of a motive.
So what does that tell you? That men are better with their money. And so women spend all their money when they're young, travelling and in experiences and partying, where a lot of guys will put their head down, nose to the grindstone, because they know no one's going to save them or give them any money. That's why women look for guys who have a bit more money. Bail them out.
Motivation, particularly for women, to be dating for financial security. There's a saying, and it's a good saying for a reason, a man is not a financial plan, but you can understand why some people are kind of factoring this into their overall dating proposition.
You mentioned it before, the cost of living crisis. Do you think that is really playing into this trend?
Absolutely. I mean, literally every part of our budgets have been impacted. So if you're renting, it's sky high. We've had energy bills increase, insurance, like every single part of your budget is impacted. There's been anecdotally this evidence of a growing trend of women dating just to save on their groceries. So they're trying to go out on...
Oh, and that's all right, is it? So you can defraud men of money. Defraud men of money, and that's fine. It's on the news. Silly girls. Just using up some sucker for $100 meal so they don't have to go and buy some groceries down at Coles. Gotta love it. This has been going on forever. They call that foodie calls. It's a very, very common thing. Happens all the time. Why do you think there are so many guys who go on first dates with women and they go nowhere? Because generally the woman's like, he seems all right. And at the very least, I'll get a meal or a coffee out of it.
2 to 3 dates a week, just so that they can have dinner paid for them by someone else and they can cut down on their grocery bill. So you do see the economic environment really does impact our personal decisions and our habits, and we're starting to see that seep into dating and relationships.
And Sarah, did you see a difference with the generations? Because we know the cost of living crisis is hitting all age groups right now.
Yes, exactly. And so actually the baby boomers at the top end, only 2% of them admitted that they were dating or staying in a financial relationship or pursuing a relationship for financial reasons. As you get younger down the generational list, all the way down to Gen Z, they're the ones who are most likely. Almost 1 in 2 Gen Z say that it's something that they've looked at. So we definitely see older Australians are a little bit more financially secure, and they're probably not willing to sacrifice their peace to stay in a relationship that doesn't really serve them just for financial reasons. So there's definitely a generational split there, but I think everyone can relate to this idea.
Come on, you're going to charge me up saying shit like that. They don't stay in relationships that serve them for financial reasons, because the women who do that, the whole eat, pray, love, or they want to go and be Helen Mirren Go and bang the scuba divers over in the coast of Italy, the Amalfi Coast. They do that on the dime of the guy they've just divorced. Grey divorced and ruined his life. Don't you even say that. It is rubbish. All right, we're going to move on. So that's a great start. So what are we saying here? Younger Australian women are using up dudes for money so they don't have to buy groceries. There you go. Could have told you that. Okay, so first of all on this, talking more Gen Z again for the most part, it's not so much limited to them, but the vast majority of first home buyers probably would be in the Gen Z age range. It's the 5% government deposit scheme. It's getting people into more debt. Pump up the housing market even further. It's great. So what are we saying here? So we've got Gen Z women using up dudes for cash. Okay, fair enough, whatever. No one cares about that. It's now marketed on Channel 7 News as a budgeting decision. Now we got the government actively encouraging people who probably shouldn't be buying a house or aren't financially in the position to be doing so to take on more debt to be able to do it. Now, I understand there's still a serviceability buffer that needs to be met here, and then it's going to be the main consideration to getting a loan. However, a big, I would say, vote of confidence for someone to be financially frugal and a good decision maker will be grinding out to save up that deposit. Now, I understand it's hard. It is very hard. But letting people and opening up the floodgates to people who might be on higher incomes but are horrible with money just to get in 30 years of debt, I don't think it's a great idea at all. All right, let's go.
From next week, all first home buyers will be able to purchase a property with a deposit as low as 5%, regardless of their income. But some experts have concerns that the federal government's expanded scheme will simply push property prices higher.
After more than a decade of saving, this month, 42-year-old Kate on the Northern Beaches got the keys to her dream.
I'm still pinching myself.
But for the single mum, moving into the market was a race against the clock.
Whenever you look at
Cool, so single mum, who you would say, if you're to be cynical, probably not going to have a lot of extra money on her hands, obviously couldn't get the deposit together, has now been locked in to 30 years of a debt she probably can't afford. But that's great, guys. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
a price and you think, oh, I'm saving towards that, and then the goalpost moves and you can't control that, you feel like you're in this vicious cycle.
Kate making the call to buy now before a new wave of first home buyers hits.
So, congratulations!
From this Wednesday, the federal government's home guarantee scheme becomes uncapped, so all first home buyers can get property with a 5% deposit instead of the usual 20%.
We've got more people coming into the market. You know, basic economics says that we're going to end up with price increases because of it.
Because of the way the policy is set up, it will bring forward more purchases.
The real question for me is, what is being done about supply?
It is a supply issue, and have we, are we close to meeting it? I think all estimates I've seen is that we are not.
But a lower...
Don't even get me started on that. So you're not even close to meeting it. It had these very big targets that were scrutinised and scoffed at by many, but apparently that was going to be very achievable. On top of that, it doesn't overly solve the availability. Why? Because we're having more migrants come in. No, it isn't about having something against people of colour. It's quite literally you have more bodies in here. And a lot of migrants are white, by the way, from Europe and the UK. So you got more people coming in than ever. And you got a housing target we're not meeting. So actually probably falling behind every single day. There you go. And that's going to feed on to my next topic, which is going to be the future of housing, which is going to be high density dwellings and the risks associated with that. As you know, there's a lot of cowboys out there building this stuff. So let's just jump into that one.
Hello, I'm Ali Langdon. Welcome to A Current Affair. It's like peeling an onion. For families in this unit block, the more they look, the more problems they find. The repair bill is likely to bankrupt them. And the worst of it, they say council knew it was faulty from the start, but still okayed it. We're told apartment living is the future, but who'd take the risk?
There are holes in the foundations behind block walls.
Horrified, absolutely horrified.
It was all these families wanted, a roof over their heads and a place to call home. But the never-ending list of disastrous defects proved this was a dream too good to be true.
We started to hear stories about flooding in the basement.
There's not one aspect of this building that doesn't have a defect in it.
And that's the thing as well. I'm not going to say all builders and all that are dodgy, but you get a lot of cowboys out there cutting corners. That's for sure. I've actually had this situation before, buying a house off the plan a number of years ago now. The second I had it, it had problems. And I was very naive because I thought, well, if you buy a house off the plan, how good's that? Like, it's going to be perfectly brand new. It's going to be a lot of attention to detail. It's going to be gone over by a surveyor and signed off. So what could go wrong? Day one, issues. So I'll tell you the issues that I had. Day one, I had it had a roof deck. So I had like tiles on the roof, not roof tiles, but actual like tiles for like a mezzanine type deck. There was something with the waterproofing under that, and there was gaps. And anytime it rained, I was going to say it was a water feature would come out through the roof into the living area, like through the plaster. Nightmare. Took months for that to even get fixed, and a lot of arguing, saying, "Oh no, it was a one-off," and all, trying to be dodgy and just get out of coming back and doing the work, to the point where I just harassed this guy every single day. I just rang him, said, "You coming or what? I'm not going away. So you need to get this done. I'll follow you down. If you die and go to hell, I'm following you down there. You're going to come and fix it." So the dude finally came. What else happened? So they had to rip the whole roof up. The whole roof would have cost him thousands to do that. If they just did it right in the first place and not dodge corners. Then there was rendering. All the rendering started flaking off and cracking off the building. Had to argue with him, get him back out, to get renderers back out to fix. I'm talking re-render 70% of the whole house, because it was just flaking off and it was just a shit job. And there's a lot of other things that you will notice over time living somewhere, and you shouldn't be noticing these things if it's a new house that should be built to very high standards. Just lack of quality, shortcutting, all that sort of stuff. So that can happen in one house for one person. Can you imagine what's going on in these massive apartment blocks that they're knocking up? That's why I'm talking about this, because the preceding article was about people getting a 5% deposit and to think to buy the dream, and they go and buy an apartment and they're paying extortionate strata a lot of the time. And then they're going to be faced with that strata being spiked for like a special levy if there are building works that need to happen, which is common. So why am I talking about apartments? Because I've got to stay away from apartments. That's affordable. That's where the entry point is for a lot of people now. These high density things that are $500K, $600K for a one bedder. Even that sounds crazy to me. $600,000 for a one bedder apartment in a block of 400 of them. But that is where we are. That's where we're going. It is the future.
In Melbourne's inner city sits South Yarra Square, 46 apartments built in the early 90s. But prime location means nothing if it's unlivable. Residents learning that the hard way, like Sam Skedema.
And to know that the government knew and did nothing about it.
James Porteous has lived in one of the apartments for 5 years. The new dad has a 2-month-old baby.
We have over $500,000 left on our mortgage here, and with the costs of the building where they are, we could be looking at upwards of another $400,000 on top of that.
So basically, life-changing money you got to pour into something at no fault of your own. But however, because the building is now probably out of builder's warranty, which would be a few, 7 years? I'm not sure how it even applies to apartments, though. There's no recourse here. There's no recourse. It's stump up Well, you're going to have to stump up because no one's going to buy it off you anyway. You try and sell it, there's bloody water feature in your house. Not going to have much luck there.
Faulty plumbing sends water cascading through common areas and seeping throughout the building. There's a leaking sewerage pipe, water damage to ceilings and a burst copper mains pipe. Andrew Balnaves bought a unit here in 2018.
The more that was being investigated, the more that we found it was like peeling an onion, you know.
This independent quantity surveyor's report estimates all the building's defects will cost more than $24 million to fix.
This is financially crucifying. It should never have happened.
Like others here, Justin Drerup and his partner are paying the mortgage, body corporate fees, as well as their portion of the repair bill.
Which ultimately, before any interest, is about 65% of the value of my apartment.
The dad of two wishes he'd known back when he purchased what he knows now.
People look at the price tag. People look at the price tag, oh, well, it's affordable. No, I really understand that. I really do understand that. I think it's something needs to be educated for people, is that these apartments, and a lot of the time they're a very bad investment. There is little to no capital growth. You'll see apartments, let's talk about Melbourne, inner CBD apartments, South Yarra, all those type of areas, South Melbourne. You see people selling those for a loss after 10 years. That's not even taking into account inflation. It's a completely bleed you. Why? Because they keep knocking them up, and a lot of people don't want to live in them. And a lot of people now are starting to wake up, is that they're very high risk as well.
Everyone who's got a home is at risk. You could find out that the builder has not done a good job, that the surveyor has issued the certificate even though it's not actually fit for occupation, and suddenly you end up having to pick up the mess.
We hold Melbourne City Council responsible because they were the relevant building surveyor and they knew of the defects. But we also think there's some accountability from the state government.
Sam is committee chair of the Owners Corporation.
This building was built in breach of the height restrictions at the time, and Melbourne City Council applied to the government for them to basically slip it through.
DGB Developments, which stopped trading in 2014, was the builder developer, but construction was underway at a time when local councils certified residential development.
There's evidence.
The things with these companies as well, like they have a history of it. They wind the joint up, so there's no recourse. The entity no longer exists, and they get a Phoenix company. They start another shell. Let's do it all over again. Not given two shits about ruining or having a high chance of ruining the livelihoods and financial security of the people who bought those properties. Scum, absolute scum, pieces of crap.
And our investigation has shown that 90% of them weren't rectified, yet the building still got signed off.
We've already spent about $2.5 million just on immediate make-safes and structural works in the basement. This was found to be not suitable and unsafe. This is just polystyrene.
So you've had to pay to get this put in?
Yes.
We're having to not only balance doing the works effectively and getting them done, but also what we can actually afford to do.
Trying to keep costs down, the residents held working bees, fixing what they could themselves. One of the biggest issues is the use of flammable and toxic polystyrene foam throughout the building. Residents say it's in ceiling spaces and balustrades.
Awful, dirty, dangerous job. You know, we're cutting with hot knives. And as we were doing this, we're cutting through the styrofoam and finding there were electrical cables running through it, which shouldn't have been there.
And getting insurance has been just another headache.
The insurer asked us to remove the polystyrene to a particular percentage, which we've done in the common areas outside.
Just in order to get your insurance?
Just to get our insurance in place.
And no doubt your premiums are obviously going up because of that.
Yeah, of course, we know that.
Among the myriad of problems, Shweta Mahayan's apartment has ventilation issues.
So the range hood in the kitchen isn't connected to the vent?
That. No.
So what happens when you cook?
It smells in the whole house, and then I open the front door and this door for it to vent out.
Are other residents in the same boat?
Everyone has the same issue.
The mess.
How bad is that? And there's no recourse. We go, oh, well, the government should step in and help them. Government don't give two shits. They got your stamp duty and that's all they want. They're not going to fucking help you. It's insane that this stuff can happen and get signed off on. It's scary. It's scary. Talk about, defects and stuff. I understand things happen. But the amount of people I've spoken to have even gotten renovations and they're defects straight away. It's a number of them. Various people have told me. I've got no faith in any new builds. And this isn't even a new build. I have no faith in new builds. Guys who work in the trades tell me, am I being a bit too critical here, or do you see a lot of shortcuts? And what's the issue for it? What's going on here? All right, let's move on to the last one. Just a quick rant about suburban rail loop that nobody wants.
Into the latest news now with Mia Schlicht from the IPA. Mia, welcome. Confidential documents have revealed senior Victorian bureaucrats were panicking as far back as 2022 over Anthony Albanese's refusal to tip in an extra $9 billion for the suburban rail loop. Infrastructure Australia has since blasted the project's business case, even warning benefits were overstated, while the Allen government insists it's vital for Melbourne's future. Mia, this project has been described as a financial gamble with taxpayers' money. Is this another case of Labor over-promising and under-delivering?
Number one, we're completely broke here. That's why the Victorian government is fleecing everybody for more and more tax. That's why they're raising cigarette taxes. I made a video about that very recently. We've got a huge black market problem going on here, but they're still raising the excise on those. All these small taxes to go, small business taxes, going after farmers, the list goes on. They're trying to find the money because they've blown it. And suburban rail loop is a huge, huge cost. Who wants a train from Cheltenham to Box Hill or from then Box Hill back to the city? I could get behind a train line from the city to the airport. Absolutely. There's a reason why that's not happening. It isn't because it can't be done. It's because there are particular businesses and the airport, Melbourne Airport itself, actually runs like Skybus and all that sort of stuff. It makes money from a lot of parking, and then there's Skybus. They don't want to lose their business. So if there's a train going straight to the airport, how many people are going to go in long-term parking? Not many. This might still do it if you don't want to get the train out of convenience, but you have to do that now. Yeah, you really have to do it unless you want to go and pay, $200 to get a taxi out to the airport and back. So there goes that. That's why there was such resistance on that. But that's the only thing I could really get behind. This other stuff, don't know. Not for what it's costing, like billions of dollars a year, and there's a lot of cost blowouts.
Yes, Caroline, I think it is. This project is shocking. It's a shocking project. I mean, it's unaffordable, it's unpopular, and at this time, it's just completely unnecessary as well. And the reality is the Victorian state is broke. There is no money. There is no way to finance this. And with the state government's history of how they've dealt with major infrastructure projects, there's no doubt there'll be further cost blowouts and timeline blowouts as well. So I think it's no surprise that the Prime Minister is putting up his hands and taking a step back saying, I don't want anything to do with this. But what I am most worried about is that the Premier is just so dedicated with continuing forward with this project that she wants to just go ahead at all costs, even going as far as to effectively bring back the Belt and Road Initiative on a recent trip to China in order to finance this.
I want to bring in now Sky News contributor Joe.
How's that? How much money did we lose to that already? Something like $1 billion or a few $1 billion for cancelling it, for no work's done at all. And that's not on those contractors. It's some stupid government decisions how they're revisiting it. What's going on here? Very interesting. You got Andrews in China. You got Jacinda Allen in China. What are we doing? Are we like an offshoot of China here? Well, we're probably going that way with the way that everything's run, especially in Victoria.
Joe Hildebrand. Joe, great to have you as well. Infrastructure Australia say these costs don't stack up. Do you think the suburban rail loop is now shaping up to be the biggest white elephant in Australian politics?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I'm a huge fan of rail. I'm a massive train nerd. And I think, to be honest, it is something that has to happen, but the government clearly just hasn't made a financial case for it. I mean, firstly, they should have done an airport link first. Secondly, they've budgeted for a third to be funded by the state government, a third to be funded by the federal government, which isn't forthcoming yet, and a third to just sort of fall out of the sky from, you know, increased economic productivity whenever and if that happens. So it is a basket case. It's another example of the Victorian state government, which is run by the left of the Labor Party, basically just running on fumes instead of actual material economic gains.
Well, let's move on now, because it turns out that running a university pays a whole lot better than running the country. Who would have thought? A Senate inquiry has revealed 38 vice chancellors are now taking home bigger salaries than the Prime Minister. Even Bill Shorten is getting $860,000 a year at Canberra Uni. But I got to say, at least he is willing to crack down on anti-Semitism on campus, as he revealed to me in an interview a short time ago. I was pretty impressed with that. But
how did that have anything to do with what we're talking about? So let's talk about that. Universities are big business. Big business that feeds off the hopes and dreams of international students who pay, you know, double or three. I don't know what the fee is, but it's a lot more. It's a far inflated fee, fees for degrees than what our locals will pay. Even the university costs here are extortionate. All it does is put young people into debt from the get-go just to have the opportunity to maybe get a job. And the job market, I don't care what anyone says and what the data is, it ain't great. I've got unemployment at 4.2% or whatever it is. Nothing's been better. That's why there's no more interest rate cuts than blah, blah, blah. How many graduates, all I'm hearing is graduates intakes being cut due to cost efficiency measures. So instead of a big company hiring 30 graduates or 20 graduates, they're hiring half or a third. They're also investing in AI to take the jobs away from these entry-level roles. So people are paying tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, depending on what you're doing and how long you studied, to not get a job. And then you've got people being paid who run these joints, millions. I dare say there'll be someone over $1 million. In my opinion, if they want to have a prosperous economy and they really want to drive people to strive, university costs shouldn't be as high as they are. There's a lot of barrier to entry. A lot of people from underprivileged backgrounds won't even be able to go, because they won't be able to pay for it, or they might not want to take on the HECS debt if they've educated themselves on it. They need to earn money now. Interesting state that it is. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to hear Joe Hildebrand ranting on and all that. Suburban Rail Loop, what are your guys' thoughts on it? Am I being too hard on it? Do you think it's good? You might think it's good, I suppose, if you live out in those areas out in the east and where that is going to run through, because there isn't trains out there, so I can sort of get it. You know, Doncaster and all that sort of stuff and all that. But I don't know. For where we are, you got this Suburban Rail Loop, you've got all this renewable energy shit going on, when the real issue should be being addressed, which is trying to use some of that money to somehow drive down the cost of living for people so people can be more prosperous. Anyway, that's just wishful thinking. It'll never happen. I'll see you in the next video.